All right, everybody, here we are. It is still Thursday, October 3rd, 2019, and you know what? You literally gotta love it. You gotta love it. We have so much to talk about, and some things that are literally out of this world, because I'm starting to believe this. Gray aliens are controlling the stock market. We'll talk more about that in a second. Bear with me. So let's talk about this market today. Not one, not two, but 3 rounds of bad economic news, which sent the stock market plunging down 335 points with regard to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and then a miracle. Something miraculous happened, and we're going to talk more about that too. So 3 rounds of bad economic news. So Americans are filing for unemployment more than expected. That's not a good economic sign. Let's see. The ISM service sector report demonstrates that even our service sector is contracting, and factory orders also fell. So not one, not two, but 3 rounds of bad economic news on top of everything else coming down the pike. And that's why stocks fell. But what I want you to understand, people, and how many of you remember a certain person who looks exactly like me? In fact, it may be me. In fact, it was me, explaining to you that the Federal Reserve wants to be the lender and buyer of last resort. We understand right now, as a matter of fact, I don't think we do understand what's going on in the debt market. Let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk about the yield curve. We know, this is the Federal Reserve explaining to us that in order to keep the short end of the yield curve pinned down, they are involved in a absolutely scandalous, truly, scheme called a repo. That means that every single day the Federal Reserve is buying at least $75 billion, or actually they're exchanging $75 billion worth of debt with other market players. And again, this is going on every single day. And there's a premium on this too. I want you to understand that there are a lot of people that believe that the Federal Reserve's repo is a zero-sum game. It is not a zero-sum game. There is a premium on this. So, okay, without going into the intricacies of this, 75 billion, at least 75 billion per day is going into forcing the shorter end of the yield curve down. What would happen if the Federal Reserve were not doing this? The entire curve, which is now looking like this and has a normal slope to it, would be like that. So it's rigging. Their market is not being allowed to dictate fair value. Billions are being pumped into the market to do it. Not only that, the Federal Reserve is admitting, again, at least 30 billion per day. At least 30 billion per day. This is what they're admitting, all right? There's a lot of other stuff lying underneath this. You know that. And they're using that 30 billion to buy longer term debt. Why? Because they are manipulating the yield curve. They're not allowing the market to determine fair value. That's why I've said since time immemorial that nobody out here, I don't care who you are, who you may think you are, is smart enough to know the real value of debt in this environment. What would yields actually be if this were not going on? So back to what I was saying. So we understand that there is literally beyond the spectrum, I believe, of human comprehension at this point, rigging of the debt market. Now, today, the stock market on 3 rounds of bad economic news just plunged. Then, within 10 minutes, it just started getting bought up, went positive. We had a 450-point swing in the markets. The Dow finished positive about 100 points. How many of you do not believe that this is the Federal Reserve buying stocks? They're buying the market. They're putting billions, hundreds of billions into the debt market to prop that up. Why not put hundreds of billions into the stock market to prop that up as well? The Federal Reserve owns the market. The Federal Reserve and the 6 banks that run the Fed are buying the market. They were the ones buying this whole thing today. So we have a completely managed communist market, just like communist China has. You remember the president? Congratulations, China, on your anniversary of communism. He's a communist. Very simple to see this. But again, this is the environment we are in. It is managed, it is rigged, it is twisted, and that's what's going on here. And it's going to get much, much worse, like I've explained to you, like I explained to you in the video from this morning. This market, they are going to throw things at this market like you can't even believe. In an attempt to continue rigging it, it's a communist market, a communist economy where, the lies and the propaganda must continue to be propagated, must be thrown at you. Economy's as good as it gets. We've never been this good before. These are the same things that leaders of communist nations and dictatorships tell the masses, while again they try to convince you that what you're seeing is not real. This is where we are at. If you're worried about socialism, you're worried about the next president, whoever it might be, you have to understand that we are way, way beyond it. Beyond that. We socialize everything in this country. We subsidize things like big pharma. Now, did you hear the president today? The president is explaining, look at my Facebook feed, my Twitter feed, my social networks. I even posted an article on Steam It. The president is blaming big pharma for the impeachment probe. This goes back to my aliens theory that I started off with. Maybe it's gray aliens that are responsible for the failing economy. Maybe it's gray aliens that are responsible for the impeachment probe. I have no idea. The president thinks it's big pharma. It can't possibly be that our economy is failing because he is a failed president. And our economy is in free fall, but he can't let you know that. Again, it's the Communist Manifesto. He must lie to you. The entire propaganda ministry must lie to you. You have to believe, and you must believe. You cannot speak out against the state. If you do, there is a faction who will attack you, and the president himself will attack you. Again, I've explained this all to you, how it works, the enemies of man, you know who they are, we're watching it play out here. The Communist Manifesto, which may involve gray aliens here, let's see if that comes out of the president's mouth next, is pretty incredible here. Now, let me put another perspective on this for you. Right now, after not one, not freaking 2, but a lovely 3 rounds of bad economic news just today alone, this is a lock. Right now, the market is pricing in an over 90%, it's 100%, but you know that, but this is the market, is pricing in an over 90% probability that we're getting a rate cut the next FOMC meeting. Oh, of course we are. You knew that already. You knew that already. Now, how many of you are catching the Fed presidents creeping out of the woodwork, rearing their ugly, disgusting, vomitous heads, explaining that, oh, I'm going to back a rate cut if it's needed, duh! If it's needed, without the Federal Reserve, again, being the lender and buyer of last resort. We're done. The Communist Manifesto will not be allowed to be real. Right now, it's the Communist Manifesto, White House pushing the agenda, and the propaganda ministry pushing the communist agenda on you. And you must believe it. You must comply. Don't you even dare dream about speaking out against the state. Sound familiar to you? Well, it really should, truly. So anyway, that's what's going on here. That's what happened to the market today. And really, do you not believe that it's the Federal Reserve who has a trading desk? You don't believe Greg Mannarino that they have a trading desk? Look it up for yourself. I've proved this repeatedly. And of course, Mnuchin's 6 banks, who are part of the Communist Manifesto that's going on right now. Our economy is in free fall. We have a failed administration, okay? And but the narrative must be maintained. Do not speak out against the state. Remember that. I'm going to leave you off with that little thing, because if you do speak out against the state, you will be attacked, and maybe even worse than that. But again, this all could be the fault of gray aliens. I don't know, X the president, because again, nothing in this administration is too out there. It may actually be the fault of gray aliens. Anyway, with that said, ponder these things. Seriously, I know I kind of joke around with all this stuff, but I would be willing to bet that you're sitting here right now going, whoa, Greg is 100% correct. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you. I will read the comments. Please share this video. And again, this guy loves you truly. See you tomorrow.